your AHJ and say, hey, I don't believe any of this crap. Say, great, call them back, and because they yell at us. They don't yell at you. They yell at us that we're making stuff up. Okay? So on here, and I'll continue, let's get the next question. On here are some videos of typical inspection results. Passing, failed commercial, failed residential. And we'll play a little bit of it for you. But in the meantime, let's open up some more questions. What other issues you have? Everybody knows about the EPA? Why you can't weld on a fire escape older than 1978?
Lead.
Because it has lead. So even if I don't agree with, there's some guys out there in your state welding fire escapes. And you know what they weld? Something or everything? Everything, right? With rust in it or rust out of it?
Yeah.
With rust in it, right? So a proper repair, just so you know, you can fix a fire escape with weld, but there's all these things you have to do after the weld, which includes encapsulation. I weld a connection with rust in it. Another, and this engineer signs off on it. This next engineer can come and not sign off on it the same day. How about this? The guy tells you, no, I'm going to take the rust out, and then I'm going to weld it without a fire permit, without a fire watch, right? On these old houses. So if he breaks the bolt, cleans the rust, and he has a 30-cent bolt in his pocket, what's he need to do? Weld it back on with no rust, fully clean, primed, or just put the bolt back in. So some of the work being done by some of these welding companies out there take a job that should be $10,000, they do it for how much? $1,000. So who do you think is winning that battle? And if you weld, first of all, if you weld, the EPA says if you got caught burning lead, what's the fine? $37,500. Number two is once you weld the rust in a connection, 5 years later when this thing is going to get re-inspected and some other engineer comes in and sees a bolt, rust, and a weld, what's he going to do? He's going to fail it. Order what to the weld? For it to be cut, order the connection to be opened, order the rust to be removed, wire brush and prime the area, and because he knows the EPA law, he's going to tell you to do what? Re-weld it back in or put the 30-cent bolt back in. So these are some of the things that we talk about. We're going to talk about load testing. Let's keep moving up to questions. What I want to do is not get into too many slides, but what questions have you been asked? Have your people been asked about new, pre-existing, lawfully non-conforming? Ask the questions. Go ahead.
I've heard that you can kind of age a fire escape based on the bolt heads,
Sure.
the shape of them or whatever.
Sure. All square head bolts fire escapes, on average, are 50 to 75 years old. If you use square heads, that fire escape has not seen a routine maintenance in 50 to 75 years. Riveted fire escapes are 75 to 100 years old. Hex head fire escapes today has had some maintenance. So let's talk about the maintenance rule. Most fire escapes have gone through 2, if not 3, bolt changes already in their lifetime. So that means every 25 to 35 years, do you change the electric on this building, on average? Every 25 to 35 years, do you change the roof on this building? Every 25 to 35 years, do you change some of these windows on this building? Every 25 to 35 years on a 100-year-old fire escape, did they change any of the bolts on the fire escape, or just get throwing paint at it?
Paint.
Got it? So you should be going through 2 or 3. So you get to a fire escape that still has its original rivets and a lot of rust jacking. That fire escape has been in that condition for 50 to 75 years, if not 100 years. So square head bolts are 50 to 75. Rivets are even older. Those are the first. They would come in red hot, just like a bridge, and hammer it together. Next question. I'm going to show you. I should be able to answer all your questions on that website.
So the welders that are coming out to work on this, they have to have some kind of certification?
Welders are not allowed to fix fire escapes with weld. You can speak with any structural engineer. You can speak with any welding company. Because if they were going to fix it, again, the quandary. I've got a welding guy coming out, an ornamental guy coming out. Both have welding machines. The process. I have to get a fire permit or not to light up my welding machine. So, do they? No. Do they pull a permit of any kind to do the repair? Probably not, and a lot of times it's not even required because it's routine maintenance, painting, and so they've been hiding under that radar forever. So now I get there, and I have a fire watch there, and I got a welding guy that's gonna fix this fire escape, and I got an ironwork ornamental guy that's gonna fix this one, and he has a welding machine on his truck. This guy brings out nuts and bolts and breaker bars. This guy just drags a 100-foot line. He gets up there, and the first tread they're gonna fix, both have rust. This guy on this side has rust inside the connection, and he welds the nose. And I got examples of that I'll show you on my slides of fire escapes done wrong. So he welds the nose. Does that fire escape older than 78? Because most fire escapes are older than 78. Is he already breaking the EPA code that says you can't weld anything with lead? Because now kids are smelling, not only the welder guy, he's sitting there going, that sweet smell of lead paint. So he's violating there. The house with the windows open is getting what? Fumes. And he's scraping, is falling on the ground dirt below. What is he getting? Contamination. And if you've gone through the course, which is an EPA renovators course, which costs you $150 or $250, you take it on a Saturday, you start in the morning, you're guaranteed a license by the end of the day, and they tell you how to de-lead fire escapes or how to control chips and lead. And it's called an EPA renovators course. That's all it is. It's an EPA renovators license. It tells you how not to do and break the law. So the ornamental guy gets over there, scrapes some of the fire escape off the, some of the shavings off the fire escape, has a plastic down at the bottom to collect these. He breaks the bolt using an impact gun to either break the bolt with a star socket. He takes a chisel, and if anybody knows how to get a bolt out, you hit it at its weakest point, which is the nut, and you just put it on the nut, you go dink, splits the nut, whacks the bolt, hits the tread falls down because the other side is still on, whack it some more, rust falls to the ground, primes this side, primes that side, taps it back up, throws in a brand new bolt from Home Depot. If he really wants to do it justice for the client, encapsulates it with what? Paintable silicone. It's gooey, it's messy, but he puts it in there. It has the gap, and he tightens it. Squirts, the goo comes out all over the place. He does what with it? With his finger? Pushes it all back in there. So that's the ornamental guy over here. But he wanted, for this 5-story building, he wanted $10,000 to do that and give the client a 15-year guarantee that fire escape will structurally pass, because he's going to do that to every connection. This welding guy over here comes in for how much? $1,000. Any permits? Any fire watches? Burning out a 100-year-old building where the next house is how far away? 2 feet. And so for $1,000 versus 10, they'll say, hey, I'm going to weld every connection, whether it needs it or not. And later on, we can talk about some people's names that you've seen out there. We can tell you there's not many players. This is a unique business. There's only a few players out there. So if all of a sudden they're welding this fire escape shut, right? And they have a certificate that's going to come from a structural engineer. Isn't that basically a rubber stamp? Well, 4 stamps, right? And so what happens now, they've welded every connection, whether it needed it or not. And if it has rust inside, as soon as that rust grows 1 more 16th over the next 1 to 3 years, what happens to that welded connection? It snaps. Check that with any welding company. So it's not about whether you're going to use a certified welder or not, because if welding was going to be acceptable, you definitely would want the structural engineer to verify this as a certified structural welding certificate on that job. And most of these guys that are showing up do not carry such a certificate. But again, it's illegal by the EPA because it's a $37,000 fine, which nobody's got tagged yet on it, but they will. And secondly, by welding a bad connection, do they allow that on bridges crossing over your rivers? But they're allowing it on your fire escapes now because you don't know anybody. It's not like you are hoping that these people that are coming out, these ornamental guys and these welding guys, are doing the right thing. I am telling you, these guys are the witch doctors. Now, same guys, welding guy, ornamental guy, both have welding machines. This guy comes in, doesn't use his welding machine, brings out his nuts and bolts. This ornamental guy brings out, now this guy will do it for $10,000. This welding guy may do it for $5,000 because he has less overhead. but he's still just gonna change bolts. So same skill set. So the welding is the wrong, not the men doing the job. The welding is wrong, because there's no welded fire escape in the US, and if there is, they're so small, a lot of them, after they've been welded, they've been galvanized. But otherwise, you got a fire escape that's old and it's just moving around, and it hasn't been galvanized, the rust on the welded connection rusts from the inside out, not from the outside in. So by the time a snap gives you way, and you look at a weld that snapped, believe me, I got involved on the other side of a lawsuit where a weld snapped. And we got a lot of training on welds, and this weld was rotting from the inside out, which you'll never see without an x-ray. How many x-rays have you seen on fire escapes? You don't do that. So let's open it up to some questions. Anybody want to see a little video of what a typical, so you know that you have this page here has the codes there for you. Let's take a look at the videos last, but here's the confidence test. If you're gonna pass, and you click on that page, this is the confidence test. This is filled out. So open up your confidence test. We're gonna use the end of the show, and it's basically all the information on the front. Yes, no. The possibilities of whether or not you're gonna pass the fire escape I certify by opinion affidavit, which comes with a disclaimer of liability. Why do we have to have that now? Because we have to tell you it's a golden parachute. When I sign this and I give you this with an opinion affidavit with the disclaimer of liability, am I taking any liability after I hand that to you? Who takes it? The owner of the building. If you accept that disclaimer, also sometimes known as a certification under the code, but it was abused, a fire escape is certified by other evidence of strength. What's that? That means 100% of all the rivets, the square bolts were taken out, put in all new fasteners, 100% guaranteed that there's no internal rust in any of the connection, and the verification of what goes into the building was verified or duplicated. Will you take a certification of other evidence of strength? Load testing is this other one here, done by a load testing or a testing agency for 100 pounds per square foot. That means if you spot repair your fire escape, you have to load test it. If I do all the treads with new bolts, do I need to load test the treads?
No.
So there's a partial. So depending what you fix on the fire escape, you can have a full load test, or you can have a partial load test. Question?
When we talk about load testing, I've been told that they should put sandbags on there, or what's the process for?
Let's see if this thing has it. Let's see. So back to fire escapes in New Jersey. See this over here? What's that guy doing?
Sandbag?
Sandbags. Well, let's click on him. Where's that take you? That takes you to this website called Fire Escape. Again, this was put out by the National Fire Escape Association. So somebody can tell you, I can't find anybody to load test my fire. I don't even know what it is. And if you watch this, there's videos and stuff. Look at the load testing. Sandbags, water bags, cables. Shows you everything. This demystifies I can't find anybody to do these things. Now, anybody watching this in your computer, can they reverse engineer this activity? Right? You can kind of figure it out, right? 100 pounds per square foot, a 10 by 2 is 20 square feet, that's about 2,000 pounds. Can you put barrels of water up there and equal 2,000 pounds? Each gallon is about 8 pounds, and so on and so forth. Right? There's no secret to this, but it's on your website. So if you go to firescapesnj.com, you can talk about, and that's where it is right here, load testing. See the other side? Need a lawyer? You know what this is? This is not connected to a lawyer. This is telling you things that why lawyers are involved. This is all some of the stories that I showed you. Look at this. All right? There's the Philadelphia, the Colorado. What's the Boston fire that killed 2 firemen is on here. See this story right here? This happened in New Jersey. This actually happened in Jersey City. Anybody here from Jersey City?
No.
Watch this story from Jersey City. This poor guy. So you can actually just play. It'll play stories on there.
FiOS is not cable.
Except that
Wired
one.
differently. That means incredibly
Really, I
fast
work for
100
FiOS. Thanks everybody.
So in the 3.7 seconds it takes care of lots of you.
I've seen this commercial.
Yeah, man.
Once
This
it's
man
fucking
can download 30 versions of the perfect song.
fucking jump into the middle of
The system can live stream it. Suppose mom downloads
I think it'll,
and down.
Get 150 meg internet
Wow,
TV
they're really
and
holding me
phone for
hostage now.
$79.99 per month online for the first year. Hurry.
Used to be able to skip, now they don't even let you skip.
Some folks at an apartment house in New Jersey lucky to be alive tonight. The fire escapes that were supposed to be lifesavers nearly turned into death traps.
That's Laurie
The
Stokes.
old and rusted sets that you see
Look at that.
they fell apart as folks climbed down, escaping in pre-dawn blaze. Jim Nolan at the scene in Jersey City with the latest for us. Jim?
Well, Lauren, this fire started at 5 o'clock in the morning, so by the time people woke up, the hallways were filled with smoke, and many of them had to run down these rusty, rickety, narrow, and slippery fire escapes. Now, some of the fire escapes were just fine, but up on the 3rd floor, one guy went out onto that fire escape, and it nearly cost him his life. The choking smoke was building in JR's apartment, and the only way out was the fire escape. But that turned out to be just as dangerous as the smoke.
That's good. Right there. That's when the whole thing just gave way all to the bottom.
Take a look at the fire escape steps after JR crashed through them early this morning. He had
That's
never
JR,
even looked at them.
or a
So he
fireman.
needed them. But one floor down, Vanessa Hancock had
When I first moved into the apartment, that's the first thing I checked was the fire escape, and so told the management about the fire escape because it's hazardous, and somebody could get hurt, anything could happen. So we keep calling the management about the fire escape, so nobody hurt it.
when she was awakened this morning by smoke and noise, she knew she never had a chance out there.
I knew not to even come this way. I already knew not to even come this way, so my option was either out the window or the front door.
And it was just about that time that JR did head to what turned out to be a rickety, corroded, and dangerous fire escape. And it nearly cost him his life.
Broke up the door and just gave way. Hold the steps. Gave way.
He's lucky.
What were you thinking?
That I ain't gonna make it. You know, it ain't pretty scary.
It must have been so scary, firemen had to help him out. But take a look at what he would have gone through had he made it down to the 1st floor. He then would have had to walk down this long, rickety Holt ladder just to make it to safety. We called the company that runs this building. They did not get back to us. The Jersey City Police Fire Department says they inspect these and started inspecting them in 2013, but never got to this building. Reporting live from Jersey City.
Terms PHI. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Sorry about the story this morning out in New Jersey, multiple people found.
All right, so that's, again, on the same page, right? So, and again, we made this so that a lot of times when people call us, we send them to this page first. So listen, this is where you're at. Whether or not you use our company, this is the steps so they can follow. So a lot of times when somebody asks you, what's the steps? You can just say, go follow these steps, and then you can pick any company you want because you go to Google, you go to yellowpages.com or yellowbook.com and just put in ornamental ironworker and you get, within 25 miles, you can get a radius of everybody that's in the area. Inspectors. I'll play the videos in a second. See this right here? Click on that. The blank of the confidence that you have in front of you. So if you're talking to an engineer, like, well, what do you want me to fill out? I said, well, there's an industry standard document. It's the same exact document. Well, what did it ask? Well, it asks 25 yes/no questions. We're going to go over that in a little bit, but you know what happens when an engineer has to sign a yes/no question? Will he? That will determine whether or not you're getting a good report. Should you receive a report on a 1-page, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, can you send him a blank copy of this and say, hey, can you fill that out for me? And he says, no, I'm not going to sign that for me. What you got in front of you is all I have to submit. Well, you say, well, then can you do me a favor? Can you then answer those questions on your letterhead? And if he says no, then you say, okay, well, I guess you forced me to enact my fire code. And what's your fire code? 1028.6 says. Depending on the structural condition, a load test of any fire escape shall be conducted before the fire escape is returned to service condition. Isn't that what you're saying here? If it's found in a state of deterioration determined to be unsafe, the fire official shall, and they repair it immediately, depending on the structural condition, a load test of any fire escape shall be conducted. Who can order that load test? Fire official, building official, why? Because it's right there. So if this guy doesn't want to answer the question, you want to see that you got a legitimate. So if somebody comes in and they painted the fire escape but didn't fix anything, can you order a load test? If they won't fill out the document, can you order a load test?
Sure.
If they showed up and they welded the whole thing and you say, where's your fire permit? Right? And do you want to go see what happens there? Because as soon as you walk there and you see one tread welded, and that guy that was on there, what do you think was on that fire escape? What kind of repairs do you think were on there? Rebolting or a lot of welding on that new story we just saw with that guy?
Nothing done on that thing.
A lot of that was welded. Just Band-Aids and patches. Why? And they're temporary. Because look how many treads did he fall. Did he fall through one or all? You know how bad a fire escape has to be ignored for you to rip through all of them? Not just his floor, he ripped through the floor of the lady next to one down below.
It hasn't been touched since it's been put in?
Hasn't been touched, and it's in there in that little cubby hole. You know when rust starts and when rust ends? As long as it's wet, rust is continuous. As soon as you dry out, there's no more rust, right? I mean, rust just takes a break. What do you think happens between that building that never gets any sunshine? When it rains, it pours, and it stays cold and moist in there at all times. And you think they have any ACs blowing in there?
No. Not today.
So, guys, this is your trump card. Anybody that gives you a hard time, any building official, not building official, any engineer or architect that gives you a hard time, won't fill out a standard industry questionnaire. Why wouldn't you fill out such a questionnaire? Just 25 questions, we're gonna go over it. They talk about every rail, every cantilever, every cable, every bolt, just the components of a fire escape. No, I want to give you this general letter that the fire escape is ready for its intended use. Can you lay that on a dead fireman's coffin? Will it resurrect the dead? The child, the woman that died in a fire escape? Right? So this is where the page is there for you. Now, as you know, we're recording this class, and we put a lot of our classes up. See over here for continuing education credits? Like I told you, Kane University had brought me in and I taught a 6-hour class, probably 5 years ago. I did it 2 or 3 years straight. I did a 6-hour course. I did it in Camden, Bergen, Sayreville, and our classes were about 100 plus, but it was a 6-hour continuing ed course. So let's take a look. So if you guys want to train your guys, just click on there, and it brings you to the National Fire Escape Association. All again from one site put out by the National Fire Escape Association. So anybody gives you a hard time, just go back, go get the answer from that page. Just let it load for a second. Well, and all these classes we put up there for free. You don't have to register, you don't have to sign in. So you can watch a bunch of classes, see if you guys recognize. So codes are in there, past classes are in there, documentation, training is in there. And as you know, nationwide, a lot of these classes are free. So they have teaching you guys for free. So the National Fire Escape Association doesn't charge for a lot of these classes. A lot of times it's just, to get the word out, because firemen right now are paying the price on these fire escapes, but more so now the tenants are paying the price because firemen are already being told not to get on. But nobody's telling the tenants not to get on. And what's the big issue? We just need to make this a checklist item. We don't need to fix anything. We need to make it a checklist item, because as a checklist item, it'll start coming up naturally through your day-to-day events. Sprinklers, permits, smoke alarms, smoke detectors, extinguishers. You can just tie a request for a certification on a fire escape for a copy of it. You're not ordering you're not ordering a test. This thing, for some reason, is not loading. Sometimes the links are broken. National Fire Escape Association.org. There you go. So this is the page that you guys would go to. Has a lot of great information, but the key is right here, semi nationwide. When you click on there. So just so you know, Jersey, it's got some of the best classes are held in the state of Jersey. So here we are teaching a class in Jersey City. We've taught a class for PennBach. We've taught in Massachusetts.
Sorry.
Portland, Oregon, Cleveland, Springfield, Illinois, Central Virginia. And if you keep going on here, you're going to start seeing that we've taught a lot of the associations in Jersey. We've taught a lot of associations it's on page 2. So if you ever want to watch a class in its entirety, just click on there and just watch. The best class, believe it or not, is going to be in Portland, Oregon. We've been working with them for 10 years. And in their classes, they bring in fire, building, engineers, architects, vendors. They're all in the same class. And when we're all done, which is all recorded, we do a downtown walk around. And we go look at fire escape work that needs to be done, fire escape work that has been done, and everybody's sort of put on notice because now we're walking to some fire escapes that people have signed off on, which they shouldn't have. Let's open up some more questions. But again, this is all on fireescapesnj.com. Let's keep it going so then we can get back to slides. Any more questions? Want to see a typical walkthrough video? So let's take a look at your. Actually, let me do this. So the confidence test filled out. We already clicked on. If it's a fail, here's what you should be getting on a fire escape fail confidence test. The 25 questions are answered accordingly, and you're supposed to get pictures of the fire escape on a fail. So at your office, you can see there's something wrong with the fire escape. How helpful are these going to be to know what's going on a mile or 2 miles from your office, whether or not you need to go visit the site? So they don't have to be in any fancy report form, because any architect, any engineer can just give you photo digital, 4 per page, 6 per page. They don't have to be in any report form. They can just give you this document filled out and send you pictures to determine whether or not you need to visit the site. This is called a fail, pass, fail. This tells you what the problems are, not where they are and how many exist. That's a technical repair report, usually for permit, which involves now the building department and whether or not there's going to be a load test. So don't get way beyond this. When you ask for a pass, fail, you're going to get a pass, fail, and that's all you need to know is that it needs further activity, but there's no way that you can pull a permit on just these photographs. Got it? This is called a pass fail. All the questions get answered. Yes, no's. And if you look on your confidence test, look on page 6. Everybody open up their confidence test, go to the last page. The last page is a vendor document. It's made for the client to gather information from a vendor, whether they have a license, instead of just a business license, whether they have a construction license, whether or not they have workers' comp and liability, whether they have some references, whether they have the EPA renovator's license because there's lead on their fire escape. And if the client is if they're going to get a price from these guys, sometimes these guys take too long to give a price. The client can use this as an express quote. So this is how clients are able to basically understand all the things they're going to need to get this fire escape properly repaired. Now let's take a look at right now the last one. See the engineer technical report? Look how much more detailed the technical report is. Usually is when this technical report comes out, the building department and the fire department are working with the engineer to properly get this fire escape back up to speed so that there is no load test. Because if you fully refurbish a fire escape, there is no load test, right? Who's going to know that the fire escape is fully refurbished? You or the building department?
Oh, the building.
The building department. You're relying on them to make sure that this fire escape's got a permit on it, that all the bolts got changed, that there were proper inspections through the bolt, through the building. You know, whether or not they're picking up a stud wall, whether they're picking up a header or something. Who they gotta prove that? To you? You guys got enough on your plate. You guys fight fires, prevent fires. So this is where the building department gets pulled in. Now look how much paperwork is on this report. This is in much more detail. Same fire escape. Specifications, drawings.
Jesus.
Specs.
What? Oh, my life.
So all these things need to be done in order for a fire escape to get properly repaired and brought back into service. They don't do this. A lot of guys don't do this. Won't do this. So this is the difference between a $1,000 welding repair and a $10,000 actual repair with a 15 to 25-year warranty. That's the key. A 15 to 25-year warranty means you've taken a connection apart, you've injected it with 50-year paintable silicone. The only thing that client has to deal with on that fire escape is keep it painted. Even if they ignore it, can surface rust get internal again if there's paintable silicone inside a connection? If a connection is sealed, can exterior surface rust make its way into internally? Not properly sealed.
No,
No.
never.
So that, the worst thing you're gonna fight with is properly repaired, is that external rust trying to make its way back into internal can't because somebody put 50-year silicone. If you put just paint there, it will get back in there. If you inject it with silicones, it won't. Okay? So this is, let's look at one video of a fire escape being examined. This is a commercial grade fire escape. So I'll move it along so that you guys can see, but this is the slideshow of some of the broken pieces. Now, when you're looking at it from the ground, it doesn't look like you can see much. Right? Looks like a good fire escape, no pieces are falling on the ground. You know what I'm saying? So it should be fine, it should certify. This is what an engineer from the ground looks at when he's not gonna walk it. Right? So just from the ground, unless you walk up and start looking at this, from the ground, he would certify this fire escape. Well, look what happens when you have to answer the 25 questions and you have to walk all the floors. This is why you guys don't get on them.
Well, some welding.
So, doing the walk, yes, Warren?
How long does it take for rust to grow?
Yeah, the average rusted connection takes 25 years to grow a quarter-inch of rust. So if you see more than a quarter-inch, it's the connection is 25 to 50 years old to grow. Left alone. So I'm going to move it forward. This is spacer, rust jacking inside. This is stuff you'll never see if you ever walk a fire escape or in the nighttime. Now I'm going to move it right up to the audio. because you certified the fire escape because it was, you're offering other evidence of strength. As the NFEA states, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. So a full paint job required, must be EPA renovator's license. Fire escape was built in 1978, and I'll go floor by floor. Most of my conversations will be about a platform, and then a stair, and then I stop. Okay. These are things you need to do immediately on this fire escape. There are some life safety concerns on this building. First of all, this needs to be modified because I don't know how they're going to get through here, but this looks very strange. If this is an exit door of some kind, this is not proper. There needs to be a slight modification here so that this picks up this window a little bit better and they can egress people that are in this room. This is very short, very tight. I don't understand what's going on here. The grading, but it's 15 to 25 years old.
If you got
That's
it.
the paint job. Cement work on all the fire escape. At least 75% of this building, all original hardware. Any original hardware that's in good condition must be certified. If you got rust, you got to remove it. So there's rust right here. So a lot of original hardware, 50, 75, 100 years old on this fire escape system. It's got a lot of cement work, a lot of bolts. This fire escape pipe is in liability right there. That is blown out, and it's got a half-inch spacing on that bracket. Not even So it's connected nothing anymore. Holding this, other than the 8 to 12 inches deep over here. So you load this with enough, there's going to be a collapse here. Right here, the same thing. This platform has lost its 2 bolts, and I can put my fingers back here. So again, this platform, again, is only buried 8 to 12 inches deep there, so there's nothing holding this platform other than the structure. It's in a state of collapse. That has no bracket, that has no bolts. Okay, original hardware throughout here. This staircase has rust in every single one of these treads. Should I hammer test any one of these treads, they're going to be ready to go. A lot of these treads have to be rebuilt because they no longer have the rod through. No rod here, a little bit of the rod left, no rod here, no rod here. So these things are ready to give way. So a majority of these treads have to be replaced with new ones, and we recommend highly that it's new galvanized. So rust, 1/4 inch to 3/8, every single step. Rod's gone. Rods are gone. See, nothing left. Gone. That's what it looks like before you deteriorates to nothing. So there's spaces around these rods. 4 inches to 3/8 thick. Look how thin everything is. Every single one. Rods are all gone. So all these treads pretty much have to be rebuilt or replaced. I recommend highly that they get replaced because they're all in pretty bad shape. Gone. 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 Rust in every connection. At least a 1/4 inch on either side. If I hammer test these, they're going to fall. Hammer test these, they're going to fall. Gone. Tread's gone. So I'm going to bring it down to the ground so we can So continue this on is with the class. 4th floor.
I'm gonna show you the cantilever at the very bottom.
It's this way from that point. So this cantilever is now non-functioning. This is the release arm. Look. The release arm, when you release it, she's supposed to drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hit the ground, and stay down. I've got welded connections, and I got some of these treads ready to fall over here, and I've got some of the treads there that the photographs will show that rust is inside all the connections, including the original ones that were left behind. Cement work, all kinds, new grading, original railings, new grading.
When you're saying cement work, what are you pointing out?
Plus years.
Just that there's been patchwork?
Into the building,
They're all
where
over the rack.
Yeah.
rods are connected.
So every fire escape in the U.S. is connected in 2 ways. Brick veneer, and this is your masonry block wall, and it can be made of block wall. It could be 2 to 3 courses of dirty red bricks. So the steel comes in only 8 to 12 inches deep. The pocket of cement, and there's no plate back here holding this. So this is just in here, filled with cement, and that's it. So as water gets in here, causes ice jacking, this all falls out.
Okay.
And so this can actually pull out of the building. The second connection process is on wood structures. You have an angle. And they'll have this through bolt that comes through. Goes through the building, the rod, there's a plate in here, and that's it. That has a nut out here. That's it. Every building in the U.S. The third option is a leg to the ground. Then you don't need through bolts because the house is a leg, the leg is a leg. You got a little bridge between the two. Every fire escape in the U.S. today is put back this way. And on these, a lot of times when we're putting these back, we use, if there's an angle going on here, We use an epoxy bolt. They're only 12 inches deep, but, with a nut. And this epoxy bolt is the same. Except Hilti epoxy's back here, not in the brick. So people think the brick is your structural, that's a veneer. There's nothing there. But a lot of guys who fix a fire escape, they'll fix it here. It looks great.
So they'll just shove some concrete in there just to
Call it a day.
patch
They
it up.
haven't gone back in to really address the water issue. And that's what that's what fire escapes do. As it ice jacks and rust jacks, it breaks your sills, breaks your windows, water gets back in, it gets behind it. And a lot of times you'll see huge rusty tears coming down the front side of a building where water's getting in. Okay? So let's continue on with any questions. Any questions about fire escapes, whether it be code, how to paint it? Any questions? Let's open it up a little and then I'll go back to slides and finish up the class for you guys. But we really want to see what you have in your mind in regards to questions.
How often are you certifying a fire escape that's never, like giving it a clean bill of health if it's never been inspected before?
75 or greater fire escapes fail. So if you want to do that, you can go here. I got a YouTube channel here, right? And in my YouTube channel, we have on here probably 3,000 fire escapes that I go out and examine. So let's take a shot. Now, don't forget, some of your cities, so I have 3,352, right? So we do a lot of inspections in Jersey. So give me a city, and I'll tell you whether or not you even have hit my radar on this. So give me some cities that, some of you have more downtowns, heavier downtowns.
Newark. In Jersey.
Newark?
Yeah.
All right, so go Newark. And I've taught a class, several classes in Newark, and Chief Stewart is my, we've done a lot of work with Chief
Not
Stewart.
summer.
Right, so you go on YouTube,
Southbound
just go on YouTube, type in Newark, fire escape inspection Newark. And if you want to see some of your cities, some of your specific cities, Hackensack, Newark, Lodi, Fort Lee, you know what I'm saying? Perth Amboy, I mean, we've done fire escapes everywhere. And the question is, how many of them pass? None of them normally pass. But on average, 75% of everything I inspect fails an inspection. Of that, 50% has a tread dangling or something ready to drop a fireman or a tenant. And so here's all these examples of fire escapes in Jersey that if you go on a YouTube channel, because a lot of these, after we cleanse them of any names and any addresses, we make them subject to your specific city. You know what I'm saying? So here's all these examples. You want to watch one? Edgewater. We do evaluations everywhere. A lot in Newark. Chief Stewart had us doing a lot of inspections in Newark. I know he's semi-retired or about to be retiring in Newark. Any other cities that are up against the ocean? But I'll tell you, if you have a huge downtown, a lot of your fire escapes have just been ignored. Fire escape, your sprinkler systems are good, your alarms are good, you've taken care of the fire protection, but fire escapes are the bastard child of egress for a reason. They were built like a brick shit house. They're not supposed to give way, and they're going to be up there forever. They're like a golden parachute in an airplane. How many people test their parachutes before they get in an airplane? It's never to be used. Not realizing that it's all withered away. So a lot of it is really about your class. I'm saying, how do you put this on the front without changing your day-to-day? A lot of it is make it part of your checklist. If you add, do you have your standard checklist for a building's checklist? Just put it at the very bottom of your checklist. Just put it at the very bottom, ask for a fire escape affidavit. You're not ordering one, you're not sure whether but if they have an external structure, right? Now here's a great one. You're going to start with fire escapes, but is everybody aware that the code actually covers all exterior steel or wooden stairways? How far beyond fire escapes have we just stepped? If fire escapes are the tip of the iceberg, what does all exterior steel or wooden stairs mean in the same code? So all your decks, all your wood decks that have stairs on the backside of some of these structures, those are the egresses. So we have to stop calling these things fire escapes. You have to call them emergency egresses. So how many emergency egresses are made out of steel and or wood that have not been examined? And now it's a big thing in Massachusetts. We're examining steel and wood structures. Because a lot of these were not built with pine, with pressure treatment. They were built with pine, and they're just rotting off the back of these buildings. All right? So what other questions do you have about fire escapes? You must have a few. No? All right, so let me put it back to the question.
Yeah, do you have anything that involves wood structures? Any videos?
Sure. See one?
Like, yeah, just to walk through the wood structure.
Sure.
How do you want to get in here for?
I guess so, sorry.
A lot of wood structures in the back of your places, right?
So we have a lot of all.
Well, those back
That's how
parking
I
lots.
got his name, he came in our town.
Keep all your back, all your back parking lots.
Yeah, no, I know, we had tons of fires.
So here's a guide to wood. And what we did is, we proved that some homeowners can fix their own fire escape, their own wood structures. You don't have to spend money with contractors. We did an examination, we walked through and showed everything, then the client did their own work, and we came back and certified, so.
Fire escape engineers, inspector summary video, here we are.
Who's that guy?
One deck, rear porch. Fire escape must be structural style must be kept painted or stained in this case. And any evidence of wood rot or any evidence of that needs reinforcement, nails popping, those are this. This fire escape is in good condition. The only issue is that it does need some routine maintenance in order to bring it back so that it can pass. So at this time, we can't proceed to a low test or to a certification by opinion affidavit since we have a few issues. And we're talking about 25% of this fire escape. So there's a minimum in order for it to pass. There's also a maximum that would basically get another 10 to 15 years out of that. We'll point those things out as we walk along. So I got myself and Inspector Manning here also with me, and we'll just sort of speak and talk about different things. So starting up here, again, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that you pop any and all nails that are coming out that can hurt children's feet, bring them back down. Number two, if you got any boards loose, you want to use that make the screws, no more nails, because what happens is through freeze and thaw, those nails just keep coming up, screws don't come up. Nails are here, so just screws. Any joints, seal it. If you start sealing all these joints, you're gonna up this for 10 years. Metal gusset reinforcement, you're gonna get 10 to 15 years out of this. So let's continue. Any issues up here, man?
They're pretty good, up there.
Alright, so I think
Looks like they use screws up here.
yeah, screws up here. I would definitely get into the joints, get all the joints sealed. But she's pretty good up here. Clean out any area. I would wash it because some of this material, if you got power trees in the area, if you power wash this, then you stain it, that's going to make this a 10 to 15 year save. Any nails pop and you got to pound them back, and anywhere when there's no trash. All right, you got the headers. The headers already all cracked, and you can see over here that we need to use strapping. The metal gussets, the galvanized metal.
So a lot of these gussets you can buy at Home Depot. Basically reinforced. A lot of this wood, by the time you try to screw back in, she's too soft at the end. So Home Depot, they had sell all kinds of galvanized gussets to do this.
Any cracks that are on them when you walk down, your foot in your goes like that. This is what happens when you're coming down without even knowing you're gonna fall down this set of stairs. And my boots are catching a lot of these nails. Little kids, they get cut their feet, and that's a liability. Some of them can get infections. Oversight. They can also be guided by a permit, so that the city official is the final one that comes in and gets certified.
Talks about that they have to check with the building department whether or not this is a homeowner repair or
he just has to
a repair because it's an investment property.
Make sure that what he does get certified, well, otherwise put somebody to re-inspect it 5 to 4 years, because that would give it a while.
Careful.
And because again, it was cut off. This is super small here. But they can also put in, if they wish, to put in sort of a mid-span screw.
Right. So we just keep walking them through the whole fire escape and finger pointing some of the things that a carpenter can do. What's starting to fail, what's starting to rip and crack.
But you can go over this one has some cracking. So we need to
Gussets that are rusting out, posts that are cracked. So we just go through the whole thing.
This comes down here, fix this up. This gets to stay.
So now the client came in, took this information.
On the cement pad that's here, Otherwise, there's lots of cracks, you know. We'll give some suggestions.
So standard thing that you see in a lot of back of your buildings, right? So
Yeah.
we told them that, it needs some routine maintenance, right? This is the before and after pictures, right? With typical things you're gonna see, cracks, ice jacking, freeze and thaw, right? Then we came back.
Here, mentioned in the original, what he did is just capped it, more than sufficient. He buttoned up all any loose pieces, added some screws, here's some of the typical brackets that we're looking for.
So we use this as a training video for a lot of residential clients, say, hey, you're not gonna pay anybody, you can do this yourself.
Joist hangers there.
You just said, stiffen this baby up.
Added some additional screws, there's original joist hangers, put in a new post here. As you can see, added some stability. As you can see here, okay, stiffness, look at this. This is exactly what we wanted to see. These are all things you buy at Home Depot. Come in and restrap, redo, just make it safe, you know? Get it in there so that the buildings, because some can be done on the homeowner's permit, some, if it's an inspection of a, okay, so, okay, let's keep on going here, see what we have going in. He
So
basically
can they fix their own stuff? Of course they
did a
can.
little bit of this.
And any architect, any engineer can assist any homeowner basically maintain the structure for not only the tenants, but also the fire.
If somebody's gonna take care of anything.
So, again, so you can go on YouTube, type in fire escape inspection in this particular city, and you'll see some of our videos out there that help basically explain how to properly inspect a fire escape. Okay? So let's take a look at the slides. I'll as I say, go through the slides now with you guys and finish up the rest of the, I'll do a fast forward here, just because again, we spent some time just talking about what's going on with fire escape. This was done in Fort Lee. This fire escape pass or fail? Just visually, would you pass or
Fail.
fail? Well, an engineer passed this fire escape, said fix 4 things.